Homies, come sit down. Listen to me ramble. I got limited time. I'm not stressed, but I'm definitely working under pressure. I got work in 30 minutes. We got to make it work, and we're going to make it work. Today was a day to persevere, man. When you get to that third 12-hour night shift, it takes you out, man. And let me tell you, it is a different animal to force yourself awake all night and then still do these workouts consistently. It's tough. It's always going to be tough. But this is where I'm at right now. This is what I got to work with. This is why I'm resting more. This is why I'm doing the active rest days, all that type of stuff. We're making it work to the best of the ability that I can give it. And today was especially worrisome because not only am I 3 shifts in, tired as hell, I'm barely getting 5-6 hours of sleep a day in the middle of the day because that's all I can get right now. But the CNS is starting to fry. That third day in, this is why I bench on the third day. CNS is starting to burn out. Everything's starting to get real tired. And if I'm not sleeping properly and I just get unlucky where I have all these shifts in a row with the gym, it's just, I got to be able to execute at the highest ability without having that kind of mental fortitude that I typically can. So most days I'm going to run in the gym, screaming my heart out, talking to the homies, high energy. And let me tell you, I put both earbuds in and I locked out. I had to fully focus in on the lifting today for the most part. We still had some good homie moments, had some good times to hang out and do my thing and get excited. But let me tell you, the power snatch movement, which, by the way, there's no way I was going to attempt a full snatch movement today. I thought about it the other day, but whenever you get really tired, there are going to be times where you try to lock out your catch in the bottom of the snatch before actually... what the hell? Sorry, people driving stupid today. You're going to try to lock out the bottom position of your catch in whatever, snatch or clean, before actually getting your core and your hips into the full ass to grass position because you're tired. If the CNS is fried, it's not going to want to hit your ankles and do that full bounce off the knees. It's going to want to catch in a power position because that's just CNS being fatigued. So I make up for that today. We do a power movement, kept it very simple, just a below the knee pause power snatch. And I wanted to pause specifically below the knee because it definitely takes a little bit more technical aspects to, stopping at the knee is a bit simpler. Like at the knee or above the knee sets you up to just rip into it however you want. You've already got the first half of the lift out of the way. You can kind of just pull it straight vertically and you should have it. You should be able to catch it as long as you're strong enough to get that certain weight. When it comes to below the knee, the knees have not fully come back yet. So you kind of have to get off the ground, have a tight centered core and technique before you get into it, like always on a pause rep. But because the knees have not fully come back, you have to do that initial technical, tempo. You gotta slow down a little bit and then rip into it. So it made me patient on a day where I wanted to just rip into it fast and as hard as I wanted to. But I on the days where you are the most impatient and the most tired, you got to just relax. You got to breathe for a second. You got to let it come back to you because that time you're going to have to rest and finally have off is earned. You don't just get it because you showed up. You have to actually put in the effort and the satisfactory intensity behind it. You got to actually try and give a shit. So I do an accessory that requires me to mentally put in that effort, to think about it, to really sit and say, how can I better it right now? And let me tell you, it wasn't perfect by any means. I was tired as hell. I don't know really how the reps worked because I didn't get to look back at the videos with how little time I had. I only had like a little over an hour to lift today. But I know that the catches were good. I made good efforts throughout each set. I went to 225 very quickly. And by the way, hitting 2 plates on a power pause, hard technique day, and it being as simple as it was hard, don't get me wrong. It was kind of heavy, sure. But that weight used to be hard for a power. So I'm very happy with how it's getting. I'm getting a lot better at putting my core where it needs to be to catch that slightly heavier weight. Because the heavier you go in a power position, even if it's, as long as it's above 90 degrees, you're going to have to be able to force your core a little bit lower than the warm-ups were. It's not like a full snatch or a full clean where you just go ass to grass every single time. Because I can catch a power with the barbell as high as I want to, but then when it comes to catching 225, I have to catch it with my hips at 90 degrees. You know what I'm saying? So it's that kind of mental switch that makes me really have to put in my best effort. It was really hard to turn my shoulders over. Again, the CNS and The muscle stability just was not exactly where I wanted it to be, but we made it work the best we could, and that's all I really can hope for, right? You can't really sit there and say it's going to be perfect every day. You're not going to always have the best lockouts, the best catches, the best core stability. Because I think on 225, if you look at the catch, I don't even think my elbows fully pushed through. And by the way, the elbows didn't move after catching it, so that does count as a solid lockout, but it's not what I would count as solid for me. Because there's plenty of people who have really messed up shoulders that went to the Olympics and catch with what looked like a bent elbow, but that's just their full range of motion. And so today, I still caught it with a solid lockout, but it wasn't to the full extent that I'm typically able to do, because my shoulders were just burnt out, man, honestly. But regardless, good effort. Now, what was really, really scary was the bench press. That was where I was really, really not concerned. I wasn't scared or anything, but it's been really testing me the past couple months. Bench is something that I don't struggle with. I've always been good with bench, but I do Olympic lifting and squatting and core stuff for the most part. That's my main focus almost every day. The shoulders that I get is just from locking out overhead, but I never pressed most of the time. Yesterday's push press was one of the first pressing movements I've done in a while. So I'm always locking out, and I'm never really driving through a weight with my shoulders like a bench press needs. So the bench cannot grow at the same rate as everything else. It doesn't always happen that way. So, the weight was 320 for 3. That was the goal. That was what was written in the program, and I'm like, shit. Because that not only means I have to go 3+ plates for reps on a day where I'm tired and burnt out already in the shoulders and the CNS, and just, again, lack of sleep and recovery whatsoever, but it's also a matter of, according to my principles in my program, I have to hit all of my warm-up weights up to 315 first, I don't just jump from 295 to 320 because it's a 5-pound jump. I don't do working sets. I do one top set after earning each predetermined warm-up set. So the bar, 135, 185, 225, 255, 275, 295, 315. That's the way it's got to go. So I have to do 315 and then 320. And the biggest thing that was really, really helpful today in succeeding to the extent that I did was emphasizing the hell out of, one, not waiting around, being as patient as you can and explosive as you can when you need it, having that solid drive off the chest, because a lot of the times I'll focus way too much on holding as stable as descent on the bench as I can, and then it'll make it to where I can't explode off my chest properly because I've been holding it so slow that my shoulders are now burnt out by the time I have to drive it off my chest. You kind of have to, you got to go at your own tempo, sure, but you have to be able to go at a tempo to where you can still explode just as hard, And so if I take a slightly slower tempo, I can't just sit there and hold the weight in the starting position in between every single rep. I got to go straight back into it. So you'll see it on all the warm-ups. I was going very, very quickly through each repetition because that's just how it needed. This is the kind of day that needed that fast twitch muscle fiber type of explosion off my chest, And the other thing is making sure that you use your hip drive and intensity in how compact your back and your core is at the exact same time to the highest extent, no matter what. Because if your core tires out and you relax your back and you don't use your leg drive to the extent that you need it to get it through that sticking point off the initial get-go off your chest, it's going to be so much harder for you to push through with just your shoulders, And again, I use my leg drive. I know a lot of people like to just do all boulder shoulder. I get it. That's just not how I do bench. I don't let my butt come off the bench at all, for sure. I always keep my butt on the bench because that's just, I want it to be competition level, but I'm definitely not just keeping my feet and my hips exactly where they are. I'm going to push off the ground and push off the bench as hard as I can. And that's just how I can get the most power out of it. And let me tell you, when I did 315, I was scared shitless because I did the first two. They were pretty solid, but again, it was heavy. I didn't take much rest time between any of these weights because of the limited time frame. And so when I did the first two, I always tell you guys this, you have to lock in every single rep, no matter what, like it's your heaviest weight. And on that third rep of 315, I fully locked out. I was like, all right, done with the warm-ups, time to move on before I even hit it. And so I had a nice stable descent, but when I drove through, I immediately was like, I'm good. And my left elbow started winging out. And I'm like, fuck. Because that's the thing that would make me not be able to hit any heavyweight when I was doing benches on the Olympic barbell like I did before in the last program. I told you guys I switched to the stiff bar because I want to have a better control through the sticking point. And what really surprised me the most was the fact that not only did my shoulder or my elbow wing out on the sticking point, and the barbell I think it actually went down like a quarter of an inch. But the moment I got there, I was able to re-lock my elbow back into place and drive through it anyway. And that really opened my mind up because I didn't realize the extent to how the stiff bar was actually aiding my bench. Because that's insane to go as hard as you can off your chest. Even if I wasn't really thinking about it, 315 is still heavy. I'm still pushing really hard. To push off your chest that hard and then be able to re-lock the technique back in through the sticking point while I'm halfway through it, that's nuts. So I'm extraordinarily happy for that. Extraordinarily. And once I got that, it was that little bit of hope, that little bit of passion with the homie hyping me up as well. That definitely helped. But it was that glimmer of hope at the end of the fucking tunnel where I could sit there and I could say, that is what I needed to know that I have what it takes today in this moment to hit 320, which I did. It was probably the best set that I had all day, at least like when it came to the energy, the explosiveness, the controlled reps, the confidence off my chest. It was at least my favorite set of the day. It didn't feel out of control. My left shoulder was definitely more beat up than my right. That's just, my left shoulder has always been a bit more limited with the bone growth on my left hand, making my mobility a bit harder there. So I have to push a bit harder on that side. But even then, I still had very consistent, nice drives through the sticking point. And that's all I could ask for. I got off the bench and I was like, let's add more weight. I did not do that. We are sticking to the program. But I honestly 100% believe I could have put on heavier weight, which is awesome. We're hitting new potential. But the biggest thing is I'm ready to chill. I'm ready to take a day, man. I just need a full 24 hours to relax. Because I mentioned this before, whenever I have work on a day that should be a rest day, which thankfully I do not have any work tomorrow on my rest day. But tonight, for example, this would be a perfect night where I would want to have full relaxing, full recovery, just sleep and come back and have a nice day off tomorrow. I'm working tonight. I don't got that right now. So I got to kind of keep the energy up and keep going, and I'll start recovery tomorrow morning, which is not optimal, but this is why we're doing active rest days after the full rest day. And the biggest thing, like I said before, your rest days, your time off, your time away from putting in maximum effort every day is earned. You won't feel like shit for taking time off if you've actually been putting in the effort. I always say that. If you feel like shit because you think that you should be working, you just did not put in the effort that is satisfactory to your own standards, not anyone else's. If you were meeting your own standards, you wouldn't give a shit what anybody else said. It is all on you to maximize your own self-worth throughout your passion, throughout your work, whatever you got to do it to the highest extent while you're there, and then go home and sleep as hard and as long as you want without having to worry about a single thing in life because you know you did everything you could in that moment. That is what is so damn important, man. I'm telling you, you got to take that time to give it the best you've got while you've planned on it. I had to go to the gym today. I had to make it work. I woke up late and had less time than normal, and I still made it work, man. You can always make it work. Always. Always, always. You have to just give it that high energy. I don't care if you don't hit heavy weight. I don't care if you just do warm-up, deload weight. You have to try something. Something, man. And it'll come back tenfold. Good karma is a fucking thing, and it will come back if you are putting in the best effort you can and appreciating that effort after you've done it. Because let me tell you, after today, I'm ready to take a full day off. And again, it's so nice to be able to have a full 24-hour period where I have nothing physically, because the active rest day is good and it primes me for the rest of the next 3 days. I got to work out, and it's right now necessary for how much I'm working overnight. But that one day off, because people tell me all the time, why don't you just do 2 active rest days or just 1 active rest day so you're never not primed? And I like having the ability to step away from my highest passions so that I can come back even more passionate. You have to make yourself kind of step back from the obsession for a second so that you can, 1, want to come back at 100%, but also not make it obligatory to come back. You know, I like being able to have a day where there isn't the need to go to gym, because it's like work to me. It's all the work that I do in my life, I make it as passionate as possible. And so to make myself take that kind of separation just on a day where I give myself my own day, whatever I want it to be, that's what it's going to be. That's what's important, because it makes me want to get back in there when I've earned the days where I can come back as well. Because just as much as you earn the days off, you earn the days that you come back at 100%. I got work, so physically, tiring. Gonna give it a solid 8.7. Very solid 8.7. Because it was a great day. I did the best effort I could. I focused on that technique and drove through, especially on the snatches, and really pushed through on the bench press. But I'm beat. My shoulders are flayed off the bone right now. I'm tired. So we're gonna go to work, relax, get my shit done, and fully rest tomorrow. Mentally, easily, got to give it a 9.25. It was a good day. I'm hyped. I'm excited. But again, I'm beat. I'm tired, man. I'm ready to go and have a day where I don't got to think about putting in 100%. Because I'm always going to put in 100% when I give myself the availability to do so, when I earn it. But when I have those days to just not think about the gym at all, I'm going to take them and cherish them. Because like I said, on the days that you have off, if you're going to sit there and tell yourself that you need to be more productive when you've already been putting in the work, relax. Enjoy the day. Take the fucking night. At least give yourself that time to chill. Because that's what's going to make you come back with more energy than you thought you had in the first place. I will be back. Tomorrow's rest day. And then I'll have an active rest day. And then I'll be back that next day for heavy snatches. Gonna do, I think it's a 285 double. Or not snatches, clean and jerk, sorry. But it's going great. We're fucking peaked right now. If bench is moving this kind of way, I'm not worried about a thing. 355 is gonna explode next week. I do have to travel, so it's gonna be a little off the time schedule, but we're gonna see what we can do, make it work. One way or another, even if I don't hit it, I will give it my absolute best. Thanks for hearing me ramble. Let me know how the lives and lists have been going. And I love you guys. I'll be back. See you later. Bye.